Hello, I'm so happy to be with you today. My name is Judith Hanson Lasater, and I'm a yoga practitioner first and a yoga teacher second. And I want to talk to you today about empathy and relaxation. And we're going to do a practice. I'm going to guide you in a practice of relaxation. So at the end of our talk. So why don't you think about gathering a few props? What I want you to do in my dreams is to lie down on the floor and be able to put your legs up on an ottoman or lower chair or a couch, maybe take the bottom seat cushion off the couch and use that. It doesn't have to be very high. It needs to be very comfortable. Then you'll need a pillow for your head, and I'll tell you how to use that. A round pillow or a throw pillow for the couch would be often is perfect. And then something to cover your eyes with. If you have a yoga eye bag, or you can use a cloth, a soft cloth, or even a clean sock. Because of the way the sock bends, it fits nicely over the eyes. One of the most important stimuluses to the brain is light. And so if we want to relax well, which we certainly all need in our lives today, we need to have darkness. But I want to begin with the idea of empathy. And I like to define empathy as understanding independent of agreement. And the kind of empathy I'm talking about today is self-empathy. We usually think of empathy for other people, which is, of course, lovely and useful. But right now, each of us is struggling in our own private difficulty. So even if we're together with other people in this time, so what does it mean to give empathy to yourself? It's to think of this phrase: how human of me to feel lonely or irritated that my freedom has been curtailed. How human of me to want things to be different. And not to judge. Empathy doesn't judge the feelings. Empathy merely hears them with its heart. So if you can think now a little bit about what feelings you're having around this time. Sadness, loneliness, maybe you're even feeling happy sometimes that you have less to do at home, or you have projects at home you can do that you've been putting off, or maybe you're worried about the future and your family and your children's school, and there's a million things. But when you feel yourself having that anxiety and that worry bubbling up from your belly, give yourself empathy. How human of me to feel X. That will really help you. And because I think that actually, not only do we need empathy, but we all are wanting refuge. Refuge from the fear and difficulty swirling around us every day without end, seemingly without end. We want refuge. But the interesting thing about refuge is that it's not about running away. It's about moving toward what we choose in our life. In every moment, we can choose. We can choose to give ourselves empathy. We can choose to give others empathy. We have the ability to do that. We just have to remember. So maybe put a little yarn around your wrist, or a string around your wrist, and every time you see it, give yourself empathy. Refuge is also, I believe, not what it's generally thought to be. It's not going somewhere else. Generally, we think of going physically somewhere else, like going on retreat is where I'm going to be at ease. When I get to the workshop, I'm going to be at ease. When I get home, I'm going to be at ease. Refuge is not a location. Refuge is an intention. An intention that I can choose to find refuge in this moment because it's always there. Those of us who have been practicing yoga have been training for this period of time, some of us for years or even decades. I'm not sure if you can see in the background this rug hanging on my wall. It's not a very fancy rug, expensive rug, but it's quite dear to me because that rug was where I sat to teach my first yoga class in 1971. And so every time I see it, I have to smile and think how that was so long ago and how young I was. And I'm still teaching and I'm still learning. So those of us who practice yoga know how and where to find refuge. One, we can find this refuge, which allows us to live empathetically on our mat, on our yoga mat. So when you step on your mat, do it consciously. Step on your mat as if you're stepping into another world, into your own private island. Do it with a sense of gratitude for whatever happens or doesn't happen there. So when you step on your mat, that is the victory. It's not if you stay an hour, you stay 30 minutes, or you do hard, challenging poses or whatever. None of that is the victory. The victory is every day, unroll your mat. Create the intention to find the refuge of the mat. When you take refuge, empathy arises. Empathy for yourself and for others in the same condition. And a nice thought that I like when I step on my mat every day is that somewhere in the world, someone I know is on their mat with me. Because yoga practice is something we do by ourselves. We do it alone. Even in a class, we're alone on our own mat. But it does not follow that practice has to be lonely. There is all around us an invisible Sangha. A Sangha is a community of practitioners, and there are millions and millions of people on our mat with us who practice yoga, who are knowing that refuge is an intention that I can take in any moment. We can also, and have been trained for many years, to remember the breath. To remember the breath. The breath, when the breath becomes quiet, the mind becomes quiet because they are two sides of the same coin. We can take refuge in the breath. Wherever we are can become a moment of practice. We've known all our life, people have said to us, you're upset, just sit here, take a deep breath. We always have known that breath and mind are the same. And slowing the breath, quieting the breath, and paying attention to the stillness at the end of inhalation and the stillness at the end of exhalation will bring us immediately back to ourselves, back to refuge, back to remembering empathy. How long do we stay on the mat to practice asana in particular? I like to stay every day until I feel the spontaneous arising of gratitude. Not gratitude for anything, just pure gratitude. Because when I am in a state of gratitude, I am not afraid. I am not greedy. I am not anxious. Gratitude fills us up and feeds our soul. And that's what our practice is in part about. Allowing the spontaneous arising of gratitude is really the beginning of the journey to recognizing your true self. Because with gratitude comes joy. And gratitude is a delicious refuge. We also learn with our yoga practice the art of meditation. And this does not have to be as formal as we are attached to it being. It can be anywhere you are. And one of the simple techniques I'd like to offer you about meditation is this one. You can imagine this exact center of your brain. So imagine going in from the sides, the front and the back, the top and the bottom. Go in right now, do it with me, unless it's dangerous for some reason. And just go into the center of your brain. And that is meditative first aid. If you're in a difficult situation, someone's upset with you, be present with them, go into the center of your brain and be present with yourself before you respond. This is something that I have done in meetings when I couldn't sleep, or was having difficulty going to sleep. I highly recommend this simple technique. Do it in the poses. So many of you are familiar with the concept of mindfulness, which is developing the ability to observe the thoughts arising. But I also would like to suggest that you may want to practice bodyfulness. I know for me, some days when I sit to meditate, I almost laugh. I have the thought that what I'm doing when I sit there for 20 minutes is watching myself not meditate. Because I get very wrapped up into the thoughts of observation. And for me, what helps me is to remember the whole of me, not just my thoughts, but my whole body. and sensation. So I like to say that sensations are the thoughts of the body, and thoughts are the sensations of the mind. So the sensation of the body, let's do that right now. Just feel sensation of your body. Let's say the breath. Just feel the sensations associated with breath. Without changing it. Notice the pressure change in the belly, the movement of the side ribs, maybe the shoulders slightly, the shoulder blades, whatever you are feeling, your sensation at the moment. This is a very powerful technique for becoming present, because sensation only happens in the present moment. You can remember that yesterday you hit your shin on a chair and it hurt, but you cannot actually bring back the pain of it. This is why women have more than one baby, because we forget labor. I have 3 babies. We forget labor until it comes back and we go, oh yes, I remember the difficulty of this situation quite clearly. So sensation is a powerful technique for being present. And why do we want to be present? I want to be present because it allows me a pause. It allows me a moment to remember empathy for myself and others. It allows me to remember that my words and actions are not fleeting, but leave an impression both on my nervous system and my environment, but on the quote unquote nervous system of the world. That every energetic action is a form of energy, thought is a form of energy. It leaves footprints, some scars on our own selves, and affects the world and everyone around you. So meditation, formal meditation, is about creating a willingness to accept things as they are. Very difficult, because we want things to be different. There are 2 concepts in the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, raga and devesha. And they're twins. And raga is wanting something, really wanting attachment. And devesha is pushing it away. And all day long, we go around at the same time trying to get what we want and push away what we don't. And both are forms of attachment. The attachment of what we want, the attachment of pushing away what we don't want. And attachment and suffering are really the same word. So creating the willingness to accept things as they are. Maybe we can't accept them. So let's begin with creating or allowing or feeding the willingness to accept them. Number 2, meditation is the willingness to love your relentless, judging mind. That's a big one, because I have devesha about my mind. I want it to be different. I want it to be different. I do not love my relentless judging mind. I do not give it empathy for its suffering. Instead, I'm trying to make it different, and or making someone else's mind different at the same time. That would be so lovely, but impossible. So a few years ago, I went to a I was invited to come to a private home, beautiful home. And there was a Rinpoche there who had written a book, and he was going to be with us and talk about his book. And so we went in. It was beautiful, vegan hors d'oeuvres. You could imagine beautiful views of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. And there were about 20 people there, maybe 25. And there were a few Zafus around on the floor, and I was dressed appropriately. I hadn't come from an office job, so I sat on the floor, not too far from the Rinpoche, and we all sat there. And he came in, beautiful in every way, with his vivid colors and his warm smile, and he talked to us. And he said, "I'm going to teach you how to meditate." So my judging mind went, okay, And he said, "Don't go to the past." And I thought, okay, I know that. Don't go to the future. Yeah, I've heard that before. And then he said something that changed my mind forever, that changed my life forever. He said, don't go to the past, don't go to the future, and leave your mind alone. Well, generally you can take me just about anywhere and I'm reasonably well behaved. But at that moment when he said that, it was a Rinzai moment for me. It was like a lightning bolt for me. And I threw back my head and I started laughing. And this was not laughing. I threw back my head and I laughed really loudly and deeply. And he started laughing. And then everyone started laughing. And then I stopped and I looked at him again and I thought, leave your mind alone. And I laughed again. And he laughed and everyone laughed because I never leave my mind alone. I'm always trying to make it change, be better, not think this, think that, remember this, don't forget this. I'm always in a tussle with my mind. It became my main practice point for a whole year. So what I'm suggesting with point number 2 is that we learn not only to leave our restless, judging mind alone, but we learn to give an empathy. We learn to become a bigger container so that the restless mind, which is just a part of us, is there with empathy. And finally, the third point about meditation I'd like to make with you is meditation is creating the willingness to just stop fighting with your mind. It's not who you are. Thank God I'm not my thoughts. They bubble up. Scientists tell us 60,000 thoughts a day, most of them unconscious. And that's where the body comes into me. I think of the body as the unconscious mind. My belly is always telling me things if I'm willing to listen and trust. But the mind's job is to create thoughts. But we don't have to believe them or dance away with them. So I never teach when I'm teaching yoga. I never use the words calm your mind because the mind is never calm. And even if we could calm the mind, conscious mind, what about the unconscious mind? So instead, what I like is the idea of putting my arms around it, letting it be, and not dancing with it. Because refuge is only to be found when we are connected in the present moment to our true self. All other so-called refuge is not really refuge. It hints at it. So we have the power in this very moment, in every moment, to live in refuge, to live with that connection. The residue of our practice is refuge. The asana is not the yoga. It's the residue the asana leaves in our nervous system that brings us to this state, or the residue of our meditation or our pranayama. But we have the power to be in that refuge where empathy for ourselves and others is fully operational. And compassion arises. Compassion can only arise when we have empathy for the other. So in the end, the truth is that with these practices, and they take many forms, it doesn't have to be yoga, many paths lead to the mountaintop. But when we get to that place, we become the refuge. We become the yoga, we become the refuge. So I'm happy to take a few questions. If you would submit them now, if anyone's interested in asking me a question, otherwise we'll go to practice. All right, so what I'd like you to do now is to get your practice ready, to get your place that you found, maybe a blanket to cover with. I think I didn't say that before. And lie on the floor and put your legs up on this chair or ottoman. Separate your legs comfortably, separate your arms away from your body. Put the pillow under your head, but all the way down in the back to where you feel that bump right at the top of your shoulder. Support the whole neck, not just the head itself, but the whole neck. Put on your eye bag, your eye cover so it's dark. Make sure your arms are open and comfortable. Cover yourself up with a blanket. Drop your chin lower than your forehead. And begin to pay attention to your breath. So I'm going to lead you for a few moments in a relaxation. Then what I'm going to do, let me now stop the video so you can hear my voice. There's nothing to see. And I will lead you in a short relaxation until you hear the bells ring 3 times, and then I'll bring you out. Settle into what is now with your body. Feel the weight of your arms, the weight of your legs, the heaviness of the blanket. Settle into the sensations of the body. They're always here in the moment. Settle into the rhythm of the breath. Notice that once you think of breath, you want to change it. Take a slow, long inhalation. And a slow, long exhalation. Normal breath in and out. Again, a slow, long inhalation. And a slow, long exhalation. Normal breath in and normal breath out. Tuck the chin, let the jaw release, and imagine that your brain is moving now to the back of your head. And there's a sense of spaciousness in your head. There's a sense of softness in your body. There's practically a sense of stillness with your breathing. And with this stillness, spontaneous silence arises. You're soft, silent, still, safe. Shavasana. I'll be back with you with the bells. Slowly inhale the breath. Exhaling. Roll your kneecaps to look at the ceiling. Bend the knees toward your chest one by one. Inhale again. And then exhale and roll to the side. Lie on the side of choice. Keep your awareness internal. Begin to come slowly and easily back to this outer world. Nothing is more important than stillness and quietness every day. It feeds your soul. Put your top hand on the floor by your chest, push up. Bring the other hand in to help you come up to a seated position. You can see this video and other videos like it on YouTube or on HealthFlix, HealthFlix.online. They're available for everyone to use and enjoy. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Please practice nothing every day like we just did. Turn your hands away from your body. Inhale the breath. Exhale, namaste. May we live like the lotus at home in the muddy water. Goodbye.